Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of GatherThem Podcast. I'm your host Jerome, and we're back. Finally, it's been a couple weeks. A lot has happened over the last few weeks. I can't find my light, and I was gonna do this, but then I'm like, this looks crazy. Doesn't it look crazy? Oh, if you're on YouTube, like you'll see. But I move one of these lamps. The problem is that I am in the middle of packing, and I do not know where I put my little light that I put on my computer, which is weird because I don't know why I would have put it away because I still have to see clients. So, um, that's been weird. And I feel like if I unpack everything and find it, I'm gonna be annoyed because I have to repack. But I don't know. It's just kind of like one of them things where I'm like, it's gonna have to wait. But yeah, like I said, a lot's been going on. I was in the hospital. Some people know, some people don't. I complications with my kidney, acute rejection, all the fun things. Not really, but I was in the hospital from the time, what was it, the day before Thanksgiving, until last Friday. Oh, and also happy birthday to the podcast. Like, this is the third year of this podcast existing. Like, that's crazy to think about that I've been, even though I haven't been like consistent, and I've taken breaks, it's something I haven't given up on. I just want to note that is that like I have not given up on this. And it's because it's like my baby. Like it's mine. Like it's my thing. And I love having access to people, like, and being able to talk about things and connect to people. I've been able to meet like so many people. I'm getting side rail, but like I've been able to meet people on the internet, that found out about me through my podcast, and I'm like, oh, you're like really cool, or like, oh, like I can see how you would listen to me because like we have stuff in common. So I just want to say shout out to the listeners. Thank you for sticking beside me, even when I'm not always consistent. Just know that like I'm always thinking about the podcast or thinking about ways to improve it, thinking about ways to grow, thinking about ways to make things different, because I feel like a show that is very much the same all of the time isn't really fun, for me, because I get bored very easily, but then it also isn't fun for like the viewers because eventually you just kind of know what to expect and then things just you know, oh, what's the word? Like y'all get bored, and that's the way in which reality works. So, but yeah, I was in a hospital, kidney transplant, post, 4 years later, having some complications. I don't know what's really going on right now. I know they detected like a acute rejection, but I don't know like what my body. They upped my meds, and I'm like, I feel like shit. Like I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, but I have been so tired, and I've been like my stomach, it goes through these phases of like being like really gassy. Like I can eat like a bagel. Like I ate half of a bagel one day this week, and I like ran to the bathroom. And then I came back, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna try to finish the bagel. And then I took a couple more bites, ran right back to the bathroom. It was like so. I don't know. Like it kind of feels a little bit inhumane, or like where's the dignity? Because I have to go to work. Like there's no like I don't qualify for FMLA. Like I don't all of the things. So it's like I have to go to work, and like I said, I'm in the middle of a move, so I need the money and like all of these things. Like I don't like feeling like that. Like I don't like being in positions where I can't take a minute for myself, or because I had this idea and I was like, oh well, there's the end of the year and like maybe I could take a month off. But then it's like you can't take a month off because then what happens to your job? Um, and when you don't have FMLA, you could take probably like a leave of absence, but then there's no pay. So you almost have to make like very difficult decisions in that way of like, is it worth it? And it's not worth it, but it's like temporary. I think that's how I'm seeing it. Like for me, this is like very temporary. Like I'm not going to be doing this forever. Um, I already have like literally like I've already told myself in my brain when I'm like leaving because I'm like I can't do this. Like I can't, work a job where you are required to be there, like to be a body in a seat doing paperwork. Like that is so boring to me. Like I literally it is so boring. And there's no windows, there's no fresh air coming in. Like I find myself taking walks pretty much a lot because my allergies start getting like fucked up in there with all the dust and stuff. And it just is a lot. Like it's the gray walls. It is all of the things that you like think, about when you work in an office job. And I feel like, or not office job, but like an office job, but like also like a government job. And I feel like a lot of times, like people always know or think they know what's best for me or think they know me. And I think that this has been one of those moments where I've like really had to sit with myself and reflect. The number 666 has been coming up a lot for me, and up until this point, and it has been about reflecting. Like that's what that number is. It's a self-assessment or taking a reassessment of a situation that you're in. And I feel like for me, um, with Pluto and Aqua, shout out to Pluto. Um, I really do feel like it is one of those things where I have to, even though it is like job security, which that isn't even real, obviously, because you see what we're going to have in office, and how they're talking about laying off like federal workers, reducing the federal. And that's the thing. Everyone always said like, oh, working in government is so stable. Working in government is so this is so that. And now they're talking about cutting programs and doing all this stuff. And I'm like, so why are people still believing that lie? Like, I don't understand. Like, it to me feels very naive to believe that anything is safe, or that you have security because at any moment, like, there could be a budget cut. They can like pull the rug from under you, and like Tinashe said, there's snakes in the grass, and I've been bit, so I stay on my own. So that's how I feel about that. I'm hoping that once I can get everything really like sorted with the podcast and sorted with private practice and be a little bit more consistent in the new year, I'm really hoping to make some moves and really just trust my instincts. I think that up until this point, I've just learned that I need to trust my instincts, and I think that ending up in the hospital was one of those like moments of reflection or moments, where I had to reflect and say, okay, what am I doing? Like, what is going on in my life right now? Everyone thinks that they know me or they know what's best for me, and it's not working. Like, it's not, I feel miserable. Like, I honestly feel miserable when I leave work most days and I feel like crying. Like, I'm gonna be so very transparent, but I leave work and I left work Monday because I left the hospital Friday. Had to go back to work on Monday because I ran out of sick days. But like I literally just wanted to cry like on my way home from work because I just felt so like stuck in the system of I have to be here because like I need the money or because I need a job and I need the insurance and my insurance gets cut off, then like I could go on Medicaid, but then like what happens if like Trump cuts Medicaid and Medicare, like then what happens? So I feel like I'm in this era of my life where I have to be very much self sufficient, and I have to learn to be have self sovereignty. Honestly, like I'm looking up a lot of different things that are going to be really helpful for me in the future, and I'm studying a lot of stuff, especially when it comes to like AI. And we'll talk about like some of this stuff later. But like, I really do feel the shift, and I feel like a lot of people aren't prepared. And I think I'm trying to stay ahead, and be prepared and just understand that like the life that we knew, making peace with the fact that like the life that we knew doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately, and we have to pivot a little bit. Now, I will say that I've probably said this before, but like I feel like I'm willing to like help people like get to the source or like figure out like what to do. Like I have some people that have been reaching out to me and asking me questions or like different things about spiritual practices or like meditation or journaling or something like that. Like not specifically like, a denomination or whatever, but just in terms of like the ways in which I keep myself balanced. And a lot of times it is meditation. A lot of times it is, you know, taking a shower, having a deep thought, or visualizing like what I really want, or writing it down, or that's what I like to do sometimes. It's like a petition to the universe of like writing something down. So, an example of this actually that happened very quickly was Monday. I noticed there was no soap, and that's the other thing. Like, there's no soap in the bathrooms. Like, at work at your government job is crazy. Like that's insane. Um so I ended up like, in the bathroom Tuesday, because there was no soap and I didn't see any janitors around. I was like, I'm gonna just leave a note and just be like, can y'all put soap in this bathroom? Because I'm not gonna stand outside the bathroom all day waiting to see like what y'all gonna do. And so I was in the bathroom stall and I literally was writing down like, can y'all please put soap in this bathroom? Thanks. And it just so happened that as I'm like writing, as soon as I finished writing that, and I was getting ready to like finish up in the bathroom, one of the cleaning women or staff came by and she was like, she knocked and just kind of asked if someone was in there, and I said, yeah, someone's in here. And so she waited, thank goodness. But I was able to just tell her in that moment, like, there's no soap in this bathroom. Can y'all do something about that? Because this is actually the best bathroom on the floor. Like, I think it's the best one, which is why I go. Because the other one usually is like a little dirtier. Like, it's not as because it's like right across from my office. So I usually go down the hall because it's a lot cleaner. And she was like, "Oh, there's no soap in there," so she put soap in there. But it's just like you almost have to like it's like manifesting your reality a little bit, and it's like the better you get at being intuitive and being not trapped in your own head. It's like things just kind of happen, and it's a little spooky sometimes. Like I'm not gonna lie, like it's a little spooky when like certain things happen, or when I'm like meditating and then like some thought comes to me that like is just like really profound, or like something that is like, oh, I hadn't thought of that way, or I haven't considered that. It's like the better you the more you do it, it's like the better you get at it, and the more intuitive, or the more you learn to trust your intuition. So needless to say, I feel like I'm getting to the point where I have to trust my intuition, and part of that is just learning when to quit, learning when to make shifts or change, um, or when things are not, going the way in which I maybe want them to go, and just doing things a little differently. But yeah, the hospital experience was rough. I had my contacts thrown out. That was like the first thing. So when they called me and they were like, "Oh, you need to come to the hospital immediately," I was like, okay, well, I was on my way to work. I had labs the day before, and they, saw my labs, and my labs were like, my kidney labs were crazy. Like, I don't even know how I was like really still operating. And so they were like, yeah, you need to come. So I was like, ugh, like I was like, maybe I'll go after work. Like I was going to put it off. And then something in my spirit was just like, just go. Like, whatever. I didn't have a backpack. I didn't have anything like prepared, ready to go. Again, I had my contacts in, so I didn't have my case on me, which is a lesson I'm learning, like, right, that like learned, from this is that I need to always like carry solution and like a case with me. Because what happened was I had them in, went to the hospital. Of course, I wasn't feeling well, like, and I was trying to, downplay it, but um, I, went to the hospital. They were like, "All right, we're going to admit you," and so I was like, "Okay, well, maybe I won't be here long." So they gave me saline solution and little cups, and they, had me put my contacts in there overnight. Literally Thursday, the next morning, one of the doctors comes in and is talking to me. One of the nurses comes in and she's just like doing stuff. Like she's just like throwing stuff out, clearing the table, doing all this stuff. And I wasn't really paying attention to her because I'm paying attention to the doctor, like trying to advocate for myself and like trying to figure out what's going on. And and then I turn around and she's like, after the doctor leaves, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I just went ahead and cleaned your table off, and I threw out those little cups of water." And I was like I gagged because I was just like, "What the fuck? Like you didn't even ask me. Like you didn't ask me if what these were or what this was." She was like, "Oh, I thought it was like spit or oh, la, la, la." And I'm like, two little cups. Like, what the fuck? So I it was from there when I was just like, "Oh, this is about to be some shit." So I wasn't really getting it. Again, that was Thursday, Thanksgiving. I told my uncle and my aunt, I was like, "Hey, not gonna make it to Thanksgiving. I'm not telling the whole family. Don't make it like a huge thing because like, like this is like stuff I deal with. Like this is not anything that's new for me. I'm very much used to just toughing it out. When in 2020 when I had the transplant, I couldn't have anybody visit me. Like I couldn't have like friends, family, like nobody. Like I was there transplanted myself, by myself, and my sister came and picked me up from the hospital, but I couldn't have any visitors, and it was very scary, because and I mean, I think in the time in the when I reflect, it was scary, but I think at the time I was like, okay, just be brave, like you don't really know if you're going to even get this kidney, like it's very much kind of touch and go. Um, and it wasn't really until I was on the operating table and they're giving me the anesthesia where I'm like, oh shit, this is real. And I was only in the hospital for like maybe 4 days. From what was it, Saturday night until like Wednesday morning. So like 4 nights or whatever. So when I had to go through this, I was just kind of annoyed because I'm like, shit, now I gotta like tell people I'm going through something and I can't show up to Thanksgiving, which I actually like. Thanksgiving is a very difficult holiday for me, like ethically, because of, yes, history, yes, but I also feel like it could be a very gluttonous holiday, and that bothers me a lot, with the way in which people act like they never ate before. Like the fact that I could literally make a Thanksgiving dinner for myself vegan, like right now, is, to me, I'm like, okay, like I can do this whenever. Like I can make mac and cheese, candied yams. I can go buy a vegan, like one of those vegan turkey, whatever ham things or whatever, or turkey, whatever. And I could literally just, make my own thing. So it's not so much that I get excited about the food or anything like that. And the family time is nice, to see family and things like that. But oftentimes it feels like the holiday itself is just about eating. And I'm trying to like reframe that a little bit in my brain because I know that the holiday isn't that's not what it's about like at the core. Um but anyway, that's not what this is about. But needless to say, I wasn't like fully disappointed, but I was also like shit, like I can't go. And I have a like legit reason that I can't go, but it's for a sucky reason why I can't go. Um and so yeah, so basically I missed that. I missed my brother's memorial, which was that Saturday, because I was still in the hospital. And then I had a biopsy on Monday, last Monday. I had a biopsy, and then that's when they were like, okay, well, we need to start you on thymo treatments. Thymo glob globuli, I can't even say it, like globulin, I don't know how to pronounce it. They're basically these treatments that are very intense. They're 6-hour treatments. They administer it through an IV, and it is like a 6-hour. You can like get up, walk around, and stuff, but it's a steroid, and it's supposed to reduce inflammation and help to suppress your immune system, which was happening. That was what, essentially what was happening was my T cells were attacking the kidney because they, thought it was a foreign object. And a lot of it was because I hadn't been taking my meds because I was sick, and not feeling great. And so, uh, due to that, there ended up being some scar tissue and things like that. But I don't know if then that's the thing. I'm still kind of in limbo a little bit. But needless to say, take care of your kidneys, kids. You only get two. And then after that, it's kind of, I didn't realize actually how sensitive our kidneys are. I hate that my nose is like itching right now. I actually didn't realize how sensitive our kidneys are and how much we kind of take them for granted, especially given that we live in a society that is like high sodium, high sugar. Um, like we gotta really like get the shit together, especially black people. Like we gotta get the shit together. Checking the blood pressure, checking the blood sugar, taking your meds, like all of the things. Like we really gotta get our shit together. Like it's so bad, across the board for us. And like I said, I think that it just gave me time to put some stuff into perspective. Um, with those, having to go through those treatments and having to be constantly waking up for vitals, or just not really having privacy. There were times where I was just kind of crying because I'm thinking about my brother, which I'm still, reeling over that. Like that is still very real. And I think that that's partly why I ended up in this situation, was because I wasn't taking care of myself. And so, needless to say, in the end, um, family, and friends did show up. People, or people. Well, the people I would say I trust probably the most showed up, because those were the people that I told, and yeah, it just was. It really reminded me of a couple of things. I think it reminded me that I am not always one. I guess one, it reminded me that oftentimes I wear the face of a healthy person, but I'm actually like very sick. And that is in itself kind of scary, because it feels like a very delicate balance between life and death. Like, I feel like if I was stranded on an island somewhere, like, I would just be dead. Like, that would be it. And how dependent my health is on the healthcare system. And two, it made me realize, like, but I don't have to be. Like, I don't have to be dependent on the healthcare system. Like I'm smart enough to figure out a way to not have to. And I know that sounds like, I don't know, Iron Man shit, or like, you know, magical like thinking or whatever. But the reality of it is that I keep telling people this. It's 2024. Like there's so many advancements, and there's about to be a boom in technology and medicine and the ways in which we cure and treat disease, because the system's falling apart. There's not going to be this like hospital, the traditional hospital, I think, um, in 20 years, like or 30 years. Like I don't think there will be, unless by some miracle, something really shifts, and soon. But it really feels like we're getting into an age of everyone being on their own, and that's scary for a lot of people. Um, which I get. Like it can be very scary to be independent and self-reliant, but if you don't have yourself in this world, like who else do you got? Like I don't really know. No one else is going to care for you the way you care for you, and that's the lesson I had to learn, the hard way, a bunch of times. So yeah, I'm just glad to be out. I'm grateful, um, that right now I'm doing better, and that, hopefully, like I said, things are on the up and up. I feel like I said, I feel better. Like I'm not having the same symptoms that I was having before I went into the hospital. So I think that's a good sign. But they were like, well, we don't think your like creatinine's ever going to go back down to like the normal range. And I'm like, ha ha ha. Well, we'll see. Because I'm a strong person, and listen, I'll be making stuff happen. Um, so yeah. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the news stories that have been coming up. One, the thing about Biden pardoning his son, I just wanted to say really quickly on that I kind of sort of understand why he did it. Whether or not it was right or wrong, I don't really care, But I mean, I feel like Trump would do the same thing. And I mean, I would maybe do the same thing. Like if I had a son that were in some deep legal trouble, knowing that the rules don't seem to matter, I guess. But in that also then to me, like signals to me that I was right about the Democratic Party, which is that they're basically the Republicans with a mustache. Like that's, we talk about, them being drastically different, but they're not really that different. The tactics are, a little bit more sloppy on their end, but as a whole, like they're not really that different. They both want some kind of like law and order, following the government, depending on, you know, um, rules to, keep people in line. They both use fear mongering to scare people. Um, so it's not really that different, This whole campaign, like season or past season, has been about the idea of moving forward or going back. And it feels very much that like we're going to move forward regardless. Like we're not going to move backwards in time. That's not possible unless you're able to, unless you're sciencey in that way. You can like, I guess, what is it, break the, uh, what is it like? I forget what they call it, but it's like you have to travel faster than like the speed of light or something like that. Don't quote me, but uh, yeah, or what was it? I think it's something about if you sat in like hypothetically, if you sat in a black hole or something like that, then you might be able to like go back in time or whatever. It's one of those theories. I can't remember off the top of my head, but needless to say, I understand why he would do it, and whether or not it's right or wrong is like subjective. Like I don't, like I said, if it was me, I probably would. only because I just feel like the rules don't matter, obviously. So I wanted to also talk about the United Healthcare CEO. Um, really quickly, I think that, I mean, I'm going to just say that, like, yes, murder is wrong. And I also understand why he did it because, like I said, in my own experience in the healthcare system, it's been trash. And a lot of it has been insurance. Um, Whether what they're going to pay for, what they're not going to pay for. When I did not have insurance and I racked up $1 million in medical bills, I was like, what the fuck? Like, how did that even happen? I'm only 23 years old. I was gagged. Um, and thank God I was able to get Medicaid because I was like, I would have been in debt for the rest of my life. Like, maybe not for the rest of my life, but I felt like it at the time. Like, I felt like there was no foreseeable way of like how to get um, out of debt because I was like, that's $1 million. Plus, like I said, plus student loans, um, at the time. And yeah, so I get it. And I get like when you are in so much pain that it's hard to even think straight, like hard to even conceive the idea of like going on another minute. And so I get it. Like I do. This is one of those things where I feel like it's morally and ethically wrong, but it's almost kind of like it's kind of like Robin Hood a little bit, if that makes sense. Like it is kind of like Robin Hood. It's like, you this man is like walking around, big Mr. Big Bucks making billions of dollars. And it's like the people that are under your insurance are like suffering. And then what was it? Not United. It was like Independence Blue Cross or another insurance was talking about how they weren't going to pay for anesthesia for full surgeries. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like that doesn't even make sense. And then they retracted that statement like very quickly, which is also very telling because they underestimated, I think, the ways in which people felt about um Luigi Mangione, who I just want to say he's a very attractive man. Like he's like very beautiful. And I'm also kind of a little lost as to how they like think it's him or like how they for certain know because I feel like his eyebrows look a little different. Like then I keep looking at his photo of his eyebrows and versus the photo that they have, and I'm like, I don't know. And the nose, it's just a little. I mean, it's like I guess when you look at someone's face at a different angle, it's like different. But to me, I'm like, I don't know, and it feels odd how they were able to quickly like get him and yet for whatever reason we can't put the same effort into saving children. Like that's to me very wild to me how like, oh well, we can't really do anything, because if a child or if an 18-year-old runs away because if they run away because they're an adult, but because this man murdered someone, like all of a sudden we're gun ho. And murders happen every day, and this no one like has this effort or this energy to do this. Like it's very very interesting. Like when you look at it objectively and you start to kind of look at the way in which things are happening, especially because the way they're labeling him as a murderer, and it's not just some oh, this is some lonely, they're like, oh, this was like an Ivy League um, man that like had, a bright future ahead of him and all this shit. And it's like, but he was in excruciating back pain to the point where he couldn't date. He couldn't like really It was hard to leave the bed, hard to do stuff. And yet all of a sudden he gets his label as a murderer when people shoot up churches, people shoot up grocery stores, and they're the lone wolf. Like it's so interesting, like to when you start to understand the narrative and the ways in which people talk about people like him that impact the 1%. Um, and I think it's also kind of like, I don't know. It's not hilarious, but like kind of sort of is that Nancy Parker, the person that turned him in, she's probably not getting anything because she called 911 instead of calling the tip line. Which is crazy because this is what happens when people be trying to be all fast and right and like, you know, and doing stuff. You basically made your life hell and the money wasn't even worth it. Like they weren't even paying her like $1 billion. They weren't paying her $1 million. They were only going to pay her like $10,000. I think from the NYPD, and then 5,000 or no, 50,000 for the FBI. Like so, she called. Excuse me, y'all. She called if she called the tip line. I've also this is also like I'm recording this joint early, so um excuse me, but she didn't even call the tip line. Like she didn't do like she didn't follow the rules. And so and this is also the other thing. Like people don't fucking follow the rules. Like if you follow the rules, then you'll, you win. But if you don't follow the rules, then you don't. And that's what they're banking on. They're banking on that you don't follow the rules. Like I don't like I just don't know how to make that any like clearer to people sometimes. Like if you don't follow the rules, then you miss out. So I feel like she just made her life miserable for no reason. And I just would have turned my head to the side and let that man be. Like honestly, because there's so many people. Like I get why someone would do it. Like I get why. Like I really do. I really understand why someone would turn someone in because technically, yes, it is the right thing to do. Morally and ethically. But in that, there are nuances. There are nuances to the ways in which we stand together as a collective and we say, no, enough is enough. We're not going to keep doing this, like this bullshit. We're not going to keep playing. We're not going to keep, you know, yada, yada, yada. Maybe there's so many people that have been denied claims because of for whatever reason, and the insurance companies don't care. They don't care. The insurance company's job is to not have to pay for anything. Like that goes for anything. That goes for car insurance, homeowners insurance, health insurance, renters insurance. Like it goes for any insurance. Like the point is like you have it, yes, to the just in case, but they're going to try to not pay for anything. I remember there was a client that I used to work with back at one of my previous jobs. And I remember it was like a really bad hurricane or something had happened around the time. And his house got impacted by it. And he was trying to like file a claim through the homeowners insurance, and they were like, "Well, we can't really do anything because that the tree falling on your house was like, that's expected to happen in this area." And it's like, okay, so what's the point in having coverage if like you're not going to cover me? Like that doesn't make sense. So I honestly just feel like it's I don't want to say it's like, all her fault or, whatever, because I know she's probably like beating herself up about it. But I think it does speak to the fact that we got to be a little bit smarter about what we are doing and what we're doing it for. Because, like I said, $50,000, $10,000, that's not a lot of money. Like, that's really pennies in comparison to a billion. Like that is, you can spend that like, and a lot of times people will just spend that on something frivolous anyway. Um, unless you have like a game plan for it or something, but obviously not because you didn't plan the thing all the way through. So yeah, I hope he's getting treated well by the inmates in there. They probably, I don't know. I haven't really. I keep hearing stories, but I don't know where he's like really being held. Like I don't really know the extent. Like it's just a lot of it is like scandalous. His lawyer spoke out a little bit. His lawyer was like, "Oh my god, his lawyer's hilarious." His lawyer was like, "Yeah, you have to have evidence to be able to persecute someone," and like, look, there's no evidence, and I'm like, kind of right. Like if unless they have actual outside of the footage, the actual gun, the actual, like fingerprints or whatever, like I feel like it's kind of, and I also don't know. Like I don't know how he's going to be judged. Like is he going to be judged by like his peers? Like that will be interesting if that happened. If it was like a jury, um that would be wild to see. So yeah, I mean, I get it. I get it. Like I get that people are tired. People are tired of the runaround. People are tired of being led astray for so long, putting like being told to put our trust in these systems that are just failing us anyway. Um, Now, would I do it? Probably not. But I also, like I said, I understand why the next person maybe would. But yeah, so I just hope that, everyone, or especially him, um, is doing all right. Yeah, hope he's doing all right. Plus, I love a rebel. Like I hate to say it, I kind of love a rebel. I love someone that's just like that is going to. I love someone that takes control and they just say like enough is enough. Um, and I've been, and I think I've said this before too, is I've been waiting for something like this to happen. Because I oftentimes feel like when and this is as I'm learning about human design and learning about myself, that I'm not, since I'm not a generator, I'm a projector. I'm someone that someone I'm the person that someone comes to when they need help. It's not so much that I just offer I hate when my nose is itchy like this. I'm not so much the person that like people come to with what is it? When they come to um me with, or I can't just like go up to people and just be like, "So, how can I help you today?" Like I'm not that girl. Like a lot of times I have to wait for the invitation. Like I have to wait for someone to say like, "Oh, Jerome, like blah 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 blah, like XYZ, like you know, um, how did you do this? How did you do that? Like yada yada yada." And even then, my energy has been like shitty lately. Like people have been asking me like questions about crypto or like tech or whatever, and I'm just like, girl, I can point you into the direction, but I can't. I don't have the energy to teach you. Like I don't. Not in this moment. Like when I think once I like get my life a little bit more in order and I get to where I want to be, I think I'll be able to guide people a little bit better. But it's almost like I have to put on my own oxygen mask before I put on someone else's. And that's where I'm at right now, I think, with this whole thing. I've been telling people I'm not like with Philly and this whole Sixers arena thing, like I'm tired. Like as a social worker, I feel like the only way I know right now how to navigate really difficult times is to become self sovereign and just try my best to get other people on that level. To be more independent and to be more mentally resilient and to learn when you have to pick your battles because again, it's all about money at the end of the day. And you don't, if you don't have access or you don't have money, there's just no way you can really get things done, unfortunately, in this world. You can be, and you have to be smart. You have to play the game a little bit, unfortunately. A lot of people talk about protesting, and a lot of people talk about um, doing all of this stuff. And I just kind of feel like that hasn't really worked up until now, the way it used to. I feel like it worked back in the 50s and the 60s. Well, 60s, 70s, I should say, sorry. It worked back then, but things are way different now. Like technology is way different. The way we get information is way different. There's so much stuff that's like very misleading. You have to double check. You have to fact check. Like you can't just run with anything anymore. And it's a shame because that's extra energy. Like that's extra brain power that you have to put out, unless you start leveraging technology. And that's the only way I know how to right now get through or like help people is by leveraging technology, learning, reading, staying informed. Um, I'm this week taking a break from like social media a little bit. I just been on like the podcast page primarily just because I'm like, I gotta have a presence, so I need to like update stuff or like talk or say things or post things. But other than that, I kind of feel like when it comes to thoughts and how people are thinking lately, it's like very either hopeless or it's negative or it's not something that is really thought out, or I don't know, like it's not really anything that's like really um helpful, if that makes sense. Like it's not like it's cool, like it adds to the conversation, but it doesn't do anything. It doesn't help to fix anything. And I feel like I'm more of, am I like fix it mode, or am I preparation to like help others and things like that. Like when I have therapy with clients, I'm like I feel like almost like this relief when they hear me talking, and I can, and I've gotten a little bit more confrontational with clients and just being like, well, it's your life. So I mean, we meet for an hour, we talk about, what's going on, but like if you don't, sorry, that I don't know what was going on outside, but yeah, if you don't like actually do the work, then I don't know what to tell you, because you actually have to do it. And that's the thing that I had to learn the hard way. And it took a lot of tears to get there. Um I lastly want to just say before moving on, to my media corner, is just that um Chipotle is up in their prices, and I just want to say that there's no reason that that should have been happening. I get it why they're doing it, but the fact that people be asking for extra like cheese, um, extra sour cream, all this extra stuff to fill the bowl up. I get a burrito bowl, and I usually can like eat it in 2 days or like a couple days. Like it doesn't take me, like I don't just eat finish a whole bowl at one time. And that's because I started like getting the beans and rice, and like, just trying to eat more of the vegetables. Cause sometimes I'll go and the people will be like, yeah, I just want like, chicken, cheese, um, salsa, and sour cream. And then that's it. And it's like, well, where's the rest of it? Like, you could do that at home. Like, and then they want you to fill the bowl up. And it's like, well, that's not how this works. Unfortunately. Or, how it shouldn't work, because like that's not really a meal. Um, and of course I'm not here to judge, but like this is why they're raising the price, because you're asking for more when it's not that deep. And again, it's almost like people live in this mindset of like lack of access, or having lack of, or like this fear of not having, when in actuality, where if you live from a place of abundance, then you're always going to have. That's kind of what that means. So excuse me, I I'm gonna still support. I love Chipotle. Shout out to them. But I just kind of felt like when I saw that, I was like, well, I'm not surprised because they're raising their prices in 2025 because people keep asking for more. And it's like, okay, well, if you want more, then we have to also like stay in business. So we got to raise the price. And Chipotle has been very consistent in not raising the prices. Like they're like one of the only chains that I know of that has not gotten that expensive since I started going when I was in college. And that was like 20 years ago. No, 10 years ago. Sorry. Yikes. No, 12. I can't do math. Anyway, moving on. Um, only thing that I have in my media corner, I'm having like the gastro stuff is starting to happen, but we're gonna power through because we're almost done. Um, I just wanted to say really quickly about the Jay Z situation and the whole like whether or not he whether or not he raped a 13-year-old girl. Like I don't know. Like I don't. We don't know. We don't know for sure. I always say this, like we never know who these celebrities are. We never know like what is happening in the background. But I will say this, and this I think is going to, is the thing that resonated for me in this whole situation, and it's that unfortunately, when you keep company or when you keep people around that are doing like really nasty, dirty things, unfortunately, you're going to get associated, and whether or not it's true or not, you still had an idea because everyone had an idea in Hollywood. And there's no way Jay-Z I can say did not know. Like there's no way I can say that him and Beyonce didn't know. Maybe they're like, oh well, we're going to turn our head to the side because like, we have a family and we can't XYZ, but like, it's unfortunate when you are in a predicament like that, where you are almost like guilty by association, in that way, even if you didn't do anything, because it feels like it could be believable, like whether or not I think he did it, I don't, again, I can't say. I mean, I would like to think not that he didn't do it, um, because I don't know, like I don't think like he could, he would, but again, that's not to say he couldn't, because like drugs were involved. So, and a lot of this like stuff, a lot of this was, you know, drugs, alcohol, um, really like crazy parties, people like children getting bussed out like to these parties, like it turns my stomach. And to me, if I were associated with someone like that, then I can't really fault like the public for having questions, because it's like, well, why were y'all friends, or why were y'all close, or why were y'all, you know, and I can't really say. But I do think it's a lesson in the company that you keep, because you keep bad company, you're going to be associated with that bad company, unfortunately, whether or not you like it. Um, all right, and then my last final thoughts are just about kind of like what I talked about a little bit with the rapid changes in technology. Like we are in the age of Aquarius. We are in, like, Pluto is now in Aquarius, which means a lot of things are about to change very quickly. Aquarius is a sign of innovation, change, um, technology shifts, all of these different things. And I just want to say that, like, if you're not keeping up, if you're part of the crowd that is afraid of AI, if you're part of the crowd that's too scared to understand crypto, if you are not, and I don't say this to scare anyone, but like if you are still hesitant, 3 years from now, you might be a little shit out of luck. And I hate to say that, but I'm not to say that all is lost. Like you can still come back, but like I think it is about to get very bad for a lot of people. And unfortunately, a lot of the doubt, a lot of the fear, I talked about it before in the last episode of like, we got to move past that. Like, we're not in this age where robots are going to just take over. Like, we're not there yet. Like, they don't even like they are here to help us, and they're going to replace a lot of people. And I think that that was by design. I think that not to say that the pandemic was necessarily a hoax or a because it wasn't. Like, people died. Like it was a real thing. But I think that it was maybe there was it was almost like a way in which it stunted us as a collective, to make us start to question things a little bit more, to throw us off of what's actually happening around the world, to care less about people, as well. I think that that is it was all of it is kind of sort of like, if it wasn't intentional, then it definitely was used against us. Um, and I think that certain people see it and certain people don't. I think that people like Elon Musk and Trump are taking advantage of that. I do think that. And they're using a lot of fear mongering, to scare people, into, you know, this idea that they won't have laws. And the reason I say that is because I saw this video of a Trump supporter talking about like, we don't really care, like we're like the you liberals think that all we care about is your stupid laws, like we don't care about any of that. And I'm like, well, why wouldn't you care about that if that's what they're trying to get rid of? Like, it doesn't make sense. And to me, I think that it is a bit of a red herring. Like, it's something that is it is there's something else going on. And I feel like in my brain I'm trying to put the pieces together of like what's actually happening. Um and I'm trying to cut out the noise from the outside of people just complaining, because it's like that's not helping. Like, the complaining is not helping. The wallowing is not helping. The hopelessness is not helping. I think back to slavery and the ways in which, um, we had leaders during that time that just knew what to do. They were able to jump into action. They were able to lead the crowd and figure it out. And, it was either you got left or you came with. And there was no in between, unfortunately. Like, there's no him and a hawing, there's none of that. That's the only reason why we are here today. And I feel like I have to almost have that same attitude with people of like, get your shit together. Like, for real. Like, I'm like, this is not even the therapist me, but this is like Jerome is like, get y'all shit together. Like, for real. Because it's getting to the point where, again, we can protest all day, we can do all these things, but like, it's just going to be a bunch of dead bodies in the street. And that's and there'll be no one left to fight the fight. Like, we have to think long. We have to think strategically. We have to think, be innovative, come up with ideas, think of things that are actually going to be helpful, and stop with the I can't. Like, I'm tired of that. Like, I'm tired of hearing people say, I can't do this or I can't do that, or, it's too hard, it's too this, it's too that. Like, well, then I don't know what to tell you, because no one's coming to save you. Like, no one the way in which I had to like realize that this year, like I had to really, really do some deep introspection and really sit down with myself and say, like, Jerome, like, why are you waiting for someone to save you? Like, why are you waiting for, a miracle to happen or just to fall out of the sky? Like, you actually have to go out into the world. You actually have to live your life. You have to meet people. You have to make the connections. You have to be smart. You have to read. You have to follow the news, follow the trends, like all of these different things, and still maintain your own individuality. Like, you have to do that. You can't just like fall in line, yes, but you also have to be smart. Like, you can't just be like, you can't just be emotional. Like, that's the thing. And that is what the conservatives understand, unfortunately. Like, they operate from a space of black and white thinking, and there's no real like gray area, and it's a lot of it's illogical if you really pay attention and you really follow through with the thoughts. Um and so I think in order to, like, for me personally, in this, Pluto and Aquarius, with these like shifts happening, and you can tell Pluto's in Aquarius because the fact that like this is even happening, the fact that like a CEO got shot, and then like all this stuff is happening with like Diddy and like all of these things, like you can tell like there's the shift is here, like it's happening. We have to embrace it. It is what it is, and just be smart about it. We have to have our friends, our family. We have to have the people we trust the most in our lives. We have to be able to trust ourselves, our instinct, our ability to self-determine. Like, we can't have analysis paralysis and just think about things all the time. You have to actually put the pen to paper. You actually have to like go to the gym. You have to like eat right. Like, you have to do the things, because other than that, like, then that's it. Like, you don't, like, no one has the ability right now or the capability to, unless it's like blatantly, like, if I saw someone out in public, like a handicapped person, or like if I saw a child or something being like bullied or victimized or whatever, like, yeah, step in. But like, when it comes to fighting for like the Sixers stadium, that's like going to happen anyway, it almost feels like a waste of my time, because it's like I don't have the resources to stop it. And that's what it is. It's to the point now where money is the thing that has the power. And if you have the most access or the most money, then you have power. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't understand that. And I don't fault people, because that's that's what they're counting on, unfortunately. So my plan is to be part of, there's going to be the haves or the have-nots, and I'm part of the mindset of trying to be part of the haves, so that I can like help other people become a have, and to, in the long term, keep fighting the long fight. But I think that getting caught up in a lot of these little the semantics of the things you can't control, when they're going to just do it anyway. Like, that's the thing, they're going to do it anyway. um I think back to George Floyd, like, cops are still killing black people. Like, that hasn't stopped. Even though we've protested, even though we've done the things, they've put in laws and they've done all of this, that, and the other, like, it's still happening. Like, trans people are still being denied rights. Like, the Supreme Court did make, a good decision recently, which was like interesting, because like I think three of the judges like abstained, but like, or whatever. But like, it just is like one of those things, or the, what do you call those? The justices or whatever. My brain is like, what the fuck right now? But like, it's too, even than that, like, it's too flimsy. Like, it's too fragile. It's too, I'm looking for the word, like, circumstantial. It's not a definite like thing where we have the power to say what we're doing, what we're not like doing. There's no real democracy is the point, is what I'm trying to say. And I would rather there be a real democracy. I'd rather us all like have to fucking go to the fucking polls every fucking day to be like, all right, well, or once a week or whatever, just to be like, all right, we're going to vote on this, we're going to vote on that, we're going to collect all the votes, and this is what we're going to do. I really have been getting into like this crypto thing and understanding blockchain technology and the idea that like things are like really secure in the blockchain, so you can't alter, like, if there were a voting system that were put up in the blockchain, or a blockchain voting system that was created, there'd be no way to manipulate that. Like, there would be no way to have doubts. People wouldn't be able to be like, oh well, polling places caught on fire, and like, or polling boxes caught on fire, or like things got lost in the mail, or things intentionally got derailed from where they're supposed to go, because it would be in the blockchain. Like, no one would be able to access it or change it. So I'm really behind that idea of uh, permanence in that way. And so, yeah, I really do think that like the future isn't what we thought it was going to be, but I think this gives us an opportunity to rethink a little bit and reassess and figure out what's important to us now individually, and create those bonds with the people and create community. Because honestly, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not fucking saving people like Kodak Black, or like, like, I'm not saving niggas that don't really do nothing for society. Like, I'm not doing it. So me personally, I'm okay if like certain people kind of drop off, because I'm not like, you weren't benefiting society anyway. And that's like a really like crazy thing to say as a therapist, but like, and a social worker, but like, we're in a like time where it can't just be like fun and games. Like, this is like real serious shit. Like, people are losing their lives over trivials, over money, like trivial things. And I think that is just, it's a shame. It really is. So yeah. I'm gonna just keep doing what I'm doing. I'm gonna keep building my little, mini empire. Shout out to Miss Jade. I Jade on X. I'm part of her cult, which I know that's weird to say out loud, but like, I mean, that's kind of what we are. We're a Leo slash Aquarius cult, which is like kind of funny, because I'm like, oh, I never thought I'd be in a cult, but it's not even like that. Like, it's not like a cult. Like, it's not like we're drinking the Kool-Aid, but like, it's one of those things where it's like, you create this group where, you create a community, you create a community that is of like-minded individuals, and which is basically a cult. And you try to help each other. And we're learning about crypto, we're learning about like different technology, we're learning about security a little bit more. I'm at the point where I'm like really invested a little bit in like learning more about Web3. Because I need to have access and security to all my shit. Like, I can't trust anyone to have my best interest anymore. Like, I have to have my best interest for me. And if other people, think that, I should be doing XYZ, like, I can point to specific times when I trusted myself and it actually worked out way better than, had I listened to someone else. So trust yourself. You oftentimes know what's right for you. And that's it for this show. You can follow me at GatherThem Pod on X, um, formerly known as Twitter, and on Instagram. Also, see, this is on YouTube. We got. I'm trying to get this shit together with Facebook, and like putting this fucking what you call it together, putting a page together so that I can easily link the clips to, what is it, to Instagram from Zencaster. But for whatever reason, Mark Zuckerberg, like, why, like, you're literally making my life hell right now. Like, it's really, and it's to the point where I'm just like, I'm about to just download the clips and just do it separately. Because like, what's like, I can't make a page. Like, I don't know why I can't, and I keep saying I made too many pages, but like, I don't see any pages. So yeah. But yeah, and then if you have any listener letters, or you have a response or anything you want to chime in about, send it to gatherthempod@gmail.com. You can definitely reach me there. Um, and I think that's it for the show. I think that's all I got to say. Again, happy birthday to the podcast. Whoop whoop. We number 3, year 3. Crazy to think that like I maintained something for this long, because usually in the past, I'll say it that way. In the past, I've given up on projects. And so being able to like maintain something like this it's felt good. It's like a highlight for me. I'm really proud of myself. So yeah, that's it. But you can hit me up on them socials, hit me up on them emails, and I will talk to everyone later. Bye.